So, fast fashion. It's the way most people buy cheap, fashionable clothes. Fast fashion chains have become global retail behemoths, some growing from a single store to thousands of stores in just a few decades. This results in happy shareholders, happy customers, everyone's happy, right? So, just how do you create a successful fast fashion chain? Well, before we begin, let's quickly discuss the concept of fast fashion. Fast fashion, it's all about speed and low prices. It's about getting the latest fashion trends into stores as fast as possible. If a new style of fashion emerges from one of the big fashion festivals, or a celebrity wears something new and different, copycat designs will be in fast fashion stores within weeks instead of months. And crucially, it will cost a small fraction of a similar garment from a high fashion brand. A lot of people have tried to define where and when fast fashion began. Various stores and individuals have been credited with creating the concept, but I don't think there is a definitive starting point. Instead, I think several things happened in parallel to help create the fast fashion business model as we know it. Firstly, during the 1960s, fashion became a big thing. It was always around, but not as big as it was in the 60s. It was the decade when younger people started to rebel and decided to do their own thing. They didn't want to wear the same things their parents did. They wanted variety, newness, and to express themselves through their choice of clothes. At the same time, global trade was being revolutionized by the increasing use of intermodal shipping, known as shipping containers to you and me. A wider range of products could be transported around the world cheaper and more securely. And computers are being used more and more in retail. In the early days, it was mainly just for back-end stuff like managing stocks, predicting demand, and managing logistics. However, the development of the Kimball tag in the 1960s, which is kind of like a precursor to the barcode, allowed retailers to get more insights into what customers were buying and when they were buying it. Later on in the 1970s, when the first barcoded EPOS systems were introduced, retailers could get even further insights and more detailed knowledge of their customers' desires and wants. The concepts of just-in-time manufacturing, quick response, and centralized distribution centers were also being developed. This helped speed up the supply chain and reduce the need for expensive in-store warehousing. And at the same time, many developing nations realized they could offer low-cost manufacturing services to Western companies. A garment could be made in one of these factories in one of these countries for a fraction of what it would cost to make in a factory in a developed nation. And that's even when taking delivery costs into consideration. These factors, when mixed together, helped create the fast fashion industry as we know it. It didn't happen overnight, it took several decades, and it's really only in the mid-noughties that the term fast fashion was coined. However, it was being developed over a 30-year period. So, let's now move on to the details about how you set up a fast fashion chain. Due to the way fast fashion works, you need to invest heavily in a supply chain that's super efficient and well designed. The vast majority of fast fashion chains were established with significant financial backing. For example, Primark, known as Pennies in Ireland, but it's Primark everywhere else, had the backing of Associated British Foods, a giant food manufacturing and retailing giant, and they still own it. Some existed as traditional clothing retailers and adapted the fast fashion model over time. For example, C&A was founded 150 years ago, but in the 70s and 80s and 90s it started becoming a fast fashion retailer. Some stores had a bit of an odd history. For example, Abercrombie & Fitch was founded in 1892 as a serious outdoor goods store. It went bust in 1977 and the brand was purchased by a regular fashion chain called The Limited. They realised that the Abercrombie brand had value and applied it to a range of stores selling clothes for hip and trendy young adults. And the rest, as they say, is history. Or you might want to create a sister brand to an existing fast fashion brand. In fact, that's how most fast fashion brands start these days. In the early days of fast fashion, many of the pioneer brands were actually spin-offs from more traditional businesses who had the foresight to see how the fashion business was changing. For example, Miss Selfridge was founded as part of the Selfridges department store chain, and Topshop was spun off from Peter Robinson, a now defunct department store. For example, all these chains were either set up by or bought and expanded by the parent company of the biggest fast fashion brand on the planet, Zara. Oh, and all these are owned by one company, Bestseller, based in Denmark. These are owned by the Arcadia Group, and these are owned by Gap. You may think that the fast fashion market is crowded and competitive, but in reality it's controlled by a relatively small number of large companies. Of course, this makes it easy for them to create new chains targeting specific niches, since, well, they already have the infrastructure in place. To put this into context, have a look at this map of Dublin, a medium-sized city by international standards. All these dots are stores owned by Inditex, the parent company of Zara. As you can see, starting a fast fashion brand from scratch would be a daunting proposition given the competition that you'd be up against. Of course, in addition to having the money or backing to start a fast fashion brand, you also need to define your target market. With a few exceptions, most fast fashion brands target the sub 40-year-old demographic. The logic is simple. The younger you are, the more likely you are to care about fashion and buy more of it. People in their 40s and above tend to care less about fashion and low cost, instead buying more functional, staid clothing, preferring to spend a bit more on a quality item. Think cardigans, slippers and tweed underpants. And most fast fashion brands tend to focus even further on a specific niche. For example, Zara's sister brand, Pull & Bear, focuses on laid-back clothing for the young. Fellow sister brand, Massimo Dutti, is focused on cosmopolitan, smart, casual and business attire. Creating separate brands targeting different demographics is an important marketing tool. People will instinctively buy clothing in places that they feel caters to their lifestyle or the lifestyle they aspire to. See yourself as a chilled, laid-back, good-looking type? Then you might shop at Abercrombie & Fitch. Young, urban and edgy? And Bershka might be your store. Want to pretend you own a wooden boat and come from Cape Cod? Then Gant is your brand. Another benefit of creating niche brands like these is that you only need to open stores that stock the items likely to be in demand in certain areas, reducing wasted marketing opportunities. Of course, not all fast fashion retailers use the niche brand segmentation approach. Stores such as Primark, C&A and H&M stock everything under one roof. Rather than use lifestyle or aspiration marketing techniques to create a brand certain demographics will feel attracted to, they focus more on the value and convenience proposition. Now that you know what your target market is, and you've got the backing to start the chain, you need to start designing and making the clothes you'll be selling. Fast fashion brands will employ their own design teams, looking out for the latest fashion trends and constantly sketching out new ideas. They will get inspiration from what's hot on social media and in the fashion press, or what some influencer or star is wearing. They will also look at sales data broken down by region and demographic to see what's selling well and what isn't. Sometimes, rather than aping what's currently in fashion, they might try and come up with something completely new to see if it takes off. And once they have an idea they think will sell well, they'll make a prototype, using their own in-house cutters, tailors and stitchers. In many cases, they will have the means to instantly print patterns onto fabrics and use 3D printers to make things like buckles and buttons and other adornments. A model, who very well may be a full-time employee of the chain, will demonstrate the garments. If management likes it, then they will send the design digitally to the factory to be produced. At the same time, an in-house photographer will take pictures of the model in the garment for marketing purposes and stuff like window displays and brochures and for their website. The speed at which new designs can be prototyped and approved for sale is incredible. It's not unusual for a fast fashion chain to produce hundreds of prototype designs in a week. Of course, not all make it to the store. As for making the clothes, well, fast fashion retailers will deal direct with manufacturers who are willing to tightly integrate their manufacturing processes into the chain's logistics process. In many cases, the retailer will just completely eliminate third-party manufacturing altogether and build their own factories. Inditex, the parent company of Zara, Pull & Bear and all those brands, are famous for doing this. Now that you have your store, your target demographic, and the clothes you want to sell, it's time to sell them. And the key thing here is always being able to offer something new to your customers. As I mentioned earlier, the fast fashion refers to the fact that once a new fashion trend starts, a retailer can capitalise on it by having new items reflecting that trend in their stores within weeks instead of months. But it's not just as simple as capturing new fashion trends. Retailers also refresh their product lines constantly, some retailers adding new items on a weekly basis, and sometimes even more often than that. This encourages customers to make more frequent repeat visits. Unlike traditional clothing retailers who have seasonal collections, in fast fashion the concept of a seasonal collection just does not exist. Now, it's important to keep costs low, really low. Fast fashion retailers are notorious for going to great lengths to reduce costs. Now, the most obvious example is shifting manufacturing to cheaper places where manufacturing costs are lower, such as India, Vietnam, China, Turkey. But it's a bit more than that. There's other little things they do to reduce costs. For example, quality of clothes on offer usually isn't always that great. For example, you might find that cotton fabrics have a lower thread count per inch. This makes it easier for the garment to be made, and also faster for the garment to be made. It goes through the sewing machines and other bits and pieces of machinery faster. But it also means that it'll bobble up and wear out faster for the end user. Another tactic employed by fast fashion retailers is to only stock a limited range of sizes. If you're unusually tall, fat or small, then you probably find that fast fashion retailers won't stock anything that fits you. This enables them to ensure that all their stock is sold and they have no leftover items in unusual sizes, minimizing wastage. But it goes beyond just how fast fashion clothes are made. Many fast fashion retailers manage their own logistics pipelines and employ advanced computer simulations to predict demand. This allows them to use just-in-time delivery methods. Instead of stock being held in warehouses at the back of stores, stock is ordered when the EPOS data indicates that the shelves will be getting bare soon. When it is delivered, it usually goes straight onto the sales floor. Having a warehouse in a retail store is an added cost. It incurs business rates, you have to employ warehousing staff, and it's space that could just be used to increase selling floor space. And of course, you need to be quite clever at how you do marketing. Fast fashion marketing is quite clever. Some chains don't do normal advertising of any kind, instead using a range of alternative marketing methods to get people through their doors. Often stores look a bit more upmarket than they should, aping the classy, minimalist looks of upscale clothing brands, the aim being to make the consumer think they are buying a bit of luxury. Remember when I mentioned the concept of aspirational marketing? Well, this is a part of that. Social media is embraced with dedicated teams working to engage with influencers and publishers to get the word out about their latest products. Just do a search on YouTube or Instagram or any other popular social media platform and search for a fast fashion chain's name and the words haul or bargains or review, and you'll find lots of content from ordinary people raving about the store's products. Loads of free advertising. And of course, some chains will utilise more traditional methods to increase sales, such as, partnering with a celebrity to create a line of clothes that the celebrity supposedly designed. And once you are in the store, the clever marketing tricks don't stop. Many chains do a lot of research into how our brains think about shopping. This helps them to decide how stores should be laid out. Everything from the lighting, the shape of pathways, the background music, and which products are placed where is all carefully considered and designed in such a way to encourage you to buy a bit more. A good example of this is Abercrombie & Fitch and Hollister, two sister brands. Their stores are notorious for being dark and smelling of the brand's signature cologne. This is because they're trying to create the feeling that you're in an exclusive club. It's all designed to make you feel a bit more comfortable and a bit special, and hopefully a bit more likely to buy the products. Primark and H&M take a similar approach, albeit brighter. They try to make their stores feel like enjoyable places to be, to make you feel comfortable. Their displays are very bright and in your face. They're trying to create an instant hook to make the product appeal to you and encourage you to make an on-the-spot decision to purchase the item. In fact, one piece of research suggests that 75% of purchasing decisions in fast fashion stores are made within 3 seconds of seeing a particular item. But there is a dark side to fast fashion. The thing is, fast fashion doesn't exactly have a great reputation when it comes to eco-friendliness. Their products are cheaply made and will have a short lifespan. In many cases, added synthetic fibres used to help with manufacture will make the garment difficult to dispose of or recycle. For example, a pair of cheap fast fashion shoes might be 100% synthetic and made from fake leather and non-natural rubber. They will never biodegrade like a pair of shoes made from real leather, real fabric, and natural rubber. And the just-in-time delivery system they use to keep stores stocked with fresh new items means they always have fleets of lorries driving out to stores multiple times per week. And then there is the much bigger problem of how the people who make your clothes are treated. You already know that low-wage labour is used. Chances are that the person making your fancy dress will earn less in a month than what you paid for it. And it's more than just low wages and sweatshop conditions. The 2013 Rana Plaza collapse in Bangladesh claimed over 1,100 lives, and it demonstrated how certain manufacturers are just willing to take incredible liberties with their employees' well-being. As a result, many fast fashion retailers signed an accord to help improve the working conditions of the people making their clothes. Even if fast fashion was completely without any problems, let's just assume there are no ethical concerns, the people making the clothes were getting paid well, and the clothes were well made, there still is an underlying problem in that it is a model that encourages us to buy more than we need. Is this sustainable? Is it possible to make fast fashion that is cheap and ethical at the same time? Let me know what you think in the comments.